what's typical issues that arise when planning handling excess soils and construction sites, and how can these be avoided?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of things that we struggle with is regardless, I suppose, of education, is when people kind of leave straight away. So we can kind of go in and give a CPD session to a house builder and be educated on, like, oh, they're hot on it, and then they'll kind of move on, because within the house builder especially, it's quite cyclical, really. People move around. Then people kind of move in, they might not be educated, and then they just kind of fall back into bad habits again. So it's still, regardless of us sort of promoting this, we still do get these, oh, we've got excess of topsoil on site, we've got a stockpile, what do we do with it? And I think that also happens on site with, like, site managers. So you can brief a site manager about, we need to, this is the rules, these are the processes involved. So this has kind of gone past, maybe the site acquisition, this is actually on site. So I suppose it's really kind of, I'm talking about, like, keeping information throughout the process, is that site managers will be recording the information of this materials use, materials movement, and then they'll move on. The site managers probably even more kind of get rotated around than the technical team. And then by the time you're on the first site manager hands over to the second, this is what you need to do. Second does kind of half the job to the third, and by the time you're on the third, fourth, fifth, nothing's been done. And so when you get to recording, so I suppose the issue with doing MMPs is that it's only as good as the verification. And if you can't verify what's happened, it may as well not have happened. If it hasn't happened, then you're in breach of the waste regs. So it's kind of really important to kind of see this whole process through. That's one of the big issues that we have, is that we can promote adherence, we can promote early adoption, and they get MMP in place, which is fantastic. And some people think, right, it's in place, good, right, let's get on with other things. They don't actually realise that you've actually got to. I liken it to kind of like doing a driving test, where you kind of like, you study for your driving test, you pass, brilliant, and then you just drive like a maniac because no one cares. And it's a bit like that until it was the 2018 update. They actually said, well, now you need a verification report. Because too many people were saying we get the MMP in place, and then we're like, oh, whatever. And there was no evidence in place to say they had done what they say they do. Which is like really, really important. They could have been bringing in 10 times as much material and dumping it in the corner. That there wasn't the overall sign-off. So in 2018, they introduced, or Claire kind of pushed, a mandatory component, which was a verification report that must be uploaded, and then a certain percent are audited, in detail. Quite right. And so when you, as a consultant, you kind of do the MMP, you sort of say, you know what you're doing, yeah, excellent, cool, well, we'll see you in 2 years. 2 years later, right, where's all the information for this? And it isn't there. And the site team hadn't been recording it. And so how can you verify, especially from on-site reuse, how can you verify what's gone where if you haven't got any information on that? And if you're submitting a verification report saying, I don't know where any of it went, absolutely no idea, yes, you can submit it. You probably shouldn't, or you should at least submit it. You want to submit something saying this probably isn't compliant, and then it gets kind of picked up, and then there's questions asked, and that's the issue, is kind of keeping the kind of whole thing going, and which is with the site managers. I was saying they start with the first, they're really, really good at the notes, and then by the time they get onto the third, if it's a 3-4 year build, then there's just nothing left, and that's the difficulty with that process, in terms of, and how can you avoid it? Well, it's just we can do audits. As the consultancies such as yourself, we'll go and we'll do audits every 3, 4, 5, 6 months, however long they want us there for, to just have that little backstop, a little bit of a safety net, to say, well, our guys on site should be recording every few weeks, but at least we've got someone coming in every 3 months saying, right, hey, what's going on? I haven't seen you before. Do you know what you're going to be doing? No. Okay. Well, actually, you need to be doing this. That just gets that information kind of flow back up. So maybe it kind of like peaks every now and then, but at least when you get to do the verification report at the end, you are getting far more complete picture than if you hadn't, if it all died off. a few years before.